and it will be on the topic of ARIA Sitebuilder, which is a piece of software developed by what is work package 4 in the RI-VIS project, involving quite heavy involvement of Eric research infrastructure. So to start off with, a little bit of background about what ARIA actually is, if you haven't heard of it before. Some of you may have done, some of you may not. So ARIA is basically a cloud platform with lots of different software services aimed at research infrastructures. And it is built by a research infrastructure, Eric, which is the structural biology research infrastructure in Europe. It offers a lot of different tools and software that are required for different tasks of operating and managing a research infrastructure. We kind of see a nice analogy. Obviously, the scale is completely different with Office 365, if you're familiar with that suite of tools. So ARIA is what we're hoping to be the equivalent of that, but for research infrastructure operations rather than Office functionality. So in Office 365, you have lots of different tools which you may use some of, you may use all of. You've got things like Microsoft Word and PowerPoint. We've also got things like SharePoint and things like email. And you can use any subset of these tools which form the greater suite, or just pick and choose the ones you need. It's become popular and has been adopted by other research infrastructures beyond just Instruct, who initially developed it. And it's also been popular with European Commission funded projects which offer access, and in particular transnational access, because one of the most popular ARIA features is the management of access and applications. So submission of applications through to peer review of applications, through to management of projects downstream after approved applications. So a little bit more of a picture of that. We kind of see the functionality in ARIA is broken down into 4 main categories. So access management, I talked about a tiny amount just now, but also management of facilities, including bookings and things, management of data, management of community. And actually, if we expand that out to the functionality that we've got within ARIA, in this diagram, you might find it quite overwhelming, but there's a lot going on here, and access management is the biggest chunk of the work. But there's also a large section on community, which is of great interest to the RI-VIS project, and some useful features here for the project. So this brings me neatly on to, sorry, I forgot this slide. So there's this is just a kind of view of the scale of ARIA. So we have more than 13,000 users across all of these different infrastructures and projects that I mentioned, and the users can fulfill different roles. This diagram shows how different roles of users in the system might interact with each other, and one user might have one or more of these roles in the system. What you see down at the bottom is there are website managers, and this will become more important later. So this is where I'm expecting to be. Why Sitebuilder? So what happened at the beginning of the RI-VIS project is we performed a review of the ARIA functionality to identify areas that would be useful for community information exchange and international visibility. And the area that we found most important was the content management system. So ARIA did already have a content management system, but it was rather aging. It was not particularly user-friendly and not very usable on mobile devices. So what we did was we did an overhaul of that to improve the usability and shareability of the system. And you might have heard of other systems like WordPress, which offer similar functionality. But what having this in ARIA has a benefit over these other systems is there's tight integration with the data coming from ARIA. So we can have things like applications built into the website. So things like the access functionality that I was talking about slightly earlier, that can all be seamlessly integrated into the website and things like that. I've mentioned mobile-friendly design before, but a very good illustration of it is from some web analytics we had on the RI-VIS website prior to the development of Sitebuilder. So in 2020, we looked at the visits to the website, and you can see on the left-hand side, this is the visits that most of them came from smartphones. So that's a dark blue section here. A smaller proportion came from desktops, but when you look at actions performed on the site, this flips around. So you have more people doing actions on desktops, even though the visits are coming from mostly smartphones. So if you want to do anything kind of intensive on the website, this might hint at the fact that you need to switch over to a desktop to be able to do things well and easily. whereas mobile phone is easier for just browsing and more popular, but people have been forced onto desktops to do intensive activity. Another big motivation for Sitebuilder over the old content management system is it makes the design easier by setting it on a global level. So the fonts and color themes and everything like that is all set centrally. And that means the editor is simpler when you're adding things because you're not having to worry about things like that. You only have minimal font and bold and things like that choices. But it means that people are less likely to make a mess by putting in a strange font or copy pasting stuff which has strange formatting inherited and things like that. So it keeps the global theming consistent. So I'm going to show you a brief video here, which is what you would see. It's a site tour of the Sitebuilder if you first arrived and went into edit mode by clicking that pencil in the top corner. So when you click that, you see the edit bar at the top, and you get the site tool, which explains that you can manage pages, you can manage menus. So there are lots of different menus you can have in the system. You can set page versioning and status as online, offline, add editors to individual pages, and share pages with collaborators outside of the ARIA Sitebuilder system, which is particularly important, and add new pages. And the edit bar can be shown or hidden with that little pencil there. And then you're ready to get started with your editing. So that's a kind of view of some of the global edit functions, but within an individual page, the content is arranged in what we call blocks. These blocks are vertical units of content, and you can see some examples on the left-hand side here of different types of blocks that are pre-built, ready for you to just slightly adapt to your needs and then put on your website, making that nice and easy. So you can have a big title block, you can have a kind of cover image, which is a kind of wide image at the top of the page or anywhere along the page. You can have text content, which can have an arrangement of text and images in various different configurations. Social media, you could have a Twitter feed, an embedded YouTube video, things like that. Different types of menus, so you can have a menu block in your page, so which will work as a nice sub menu rather than the main menu to move around places. And you can have documents presented to the visitors to your website for download and display of the metadata of those documents before they download. And you see on the right hand side of the page the settings that appear whenever you add any block. So you'll get the options to change the block style, change the block settings, and to copy links to it. So relative links, you can link to that part of the page from anywhere else online or within the Sitebuilder. You can also duplicate blocks. If you've got a block you like and you want to use it somewhere else, you can use the block cloning tools, delete it, or move it vertically up and down. And each block is coded very carefully to make sure that it is responsive on mobile phone. And that's partly why we only allow vertical ordering of the blocks, to make sure that things stay responsive. In the product tour, you might have seen the page visibility options. So this is also really important for sharing and doing things collaboratively and things that the RI-VIS project is all about. So having page visibility, different settings, you can have it online, which is entirely for everybody on the internet will be able to see that page as it appears to you. Private will allow logged in users who have been specified. So here we've got 6 individual users who've been allowed to see that page, or you could also add groups of users. And then once those people are logged in, they'll be able to see the page, but not logged in, they won't be able to see it. Or offline, which is only visible to people who have edit permissions on that page, or in this case, only you. Also version control, so you can work on a page without it being immediately available to everybody on the web. If it is an online page, you can have an offline version, and then you can swap between versions. So you can have you can update the version when you are ready, when you've gone through all the review. And then in the bottom left here, you see that there's a sharing link. This is a bit analogous to if you've used Google Docs or SharePoint, you can get a sharing link, which you can send to anybody in the world. They don't need to have an account to be able to log in. If they have that very special link with the token, they'll be able to view the page and they can offer you feedback. So if you're working with collaborators overseas, potentially, you could share the link with them, get their feedback, make updates before making your page live. We also have, I don't want to go into too much detail about this, we have different types of menus. So you can independently configure menus, which are the main menu, the footer menu, and the in-page submenus. You can have any number of these, and you can set which one is which type of menu. And there's lots of management tools here. You can have nested items. You can have different settings. You can have links to internal pages, which are really straightforward to set up, or you can add any URL as a link in one of these menus. But I wanted to have a few moments to talk to you about Sitebuilder actually in use. So the first time we made any Sitebuilder live to the world was in May 2020, when we used it for the COVID-19 protein portal. The idea of this was, as a rapid response to the pandemic, the portal gave access to researchers to reagents for COVID-19 research provided by universities, a consortium of universities within the UK. And this was done at the early stages of the pandemic. The application interface was the first real world use of Sitebuilder. And you can see a couple of screenshots there of the selection for reagents and the subsequent research proposal that was submitted to explain what you wanted the reagents for. And then that was evaluated and processed, and the reagents would be then sent to the researcher who needed them. So this was really great. Because of Sitebuilder's ease of use, we were able to get it going quite quickly. And this shows the advantage as well of connecting to the ARIA data sources that I was talking about earlier, rather than just having any old website. And the other use of the RI-VIS was the RI-VIS communication toolkit, which Rita will be talking to you about very shortly in the next presentation. But that was built using Sitebuilder. The initial version was a PDF, and we converted that into an online browsable toolkit. So you can actually have a look at that today at toolkit.rivis.eu. So in the future, well, we want to improve the global settings configuration interface so that you can set global fonts and color themes and things like that. We also want to add event and news blocks. So you can see an example of a calendar block that you see on the side there. We've got prototypes for these, but they haven't been added to the live version of Sitebuilder. Web analytics, so we can work out how many people are viewing different parts of the Sitebuilder, and eventually, and this is a much longer term goal, migrate the whole of the ARIA front end to Sitebuilder, which is a much more modern technology suitable for the future. So thank you very much in particular to the ARIA development team, obviously for all the work the hard work that they've done here, but also to the people who've been guinea pigs and used the early versions of Sitebuilder in live. So the COVID-19 Protein Production Consortium, the RI-VIS Communication Toolkit team, and the ERIC Forum project, who've all been really helpful in testing and feedback and on ARIA Sitebuilder, the live version and its prototypes beforehand. So thank you very much. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to take them.